Great. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. So, today I've got a little bit of a treat for you. I think this is going to be actually the first time that I'm going to be showcasing a game that I actually played on the channel. So, this is part of kind of the league experience that the league that I run does. So, I'm the professor there, and as part of kind of our monthly seasonal thing that we do, our players can earn badges, and got a what I call the professor challenge. So anybody that kind of falls far enough behind the leader on badges can challenge me to potentially catch back up a little bit. Players can only do that once per month because it's not a way to really keep them, let them just overtake the leader or anything, but mostly just kind of keep up with everything. But so player challenged me today. They are playing Lightning, and I have a wheel that you spin. If you tell me what deck you're playing, spin the wheel, see what deck I'm going to play. So always the deck that I'm playing is a little bit random. Some of the decks I know how to play fairly well. Other ones, not so much. Some of our decks are also a little outdated, like this fire deck is. But it's a pretty fun game anyway. So getting this underway, I'm going first. Attach to my Victini and then just pass. My opponent has a lightning spread deck, starting off with that Pikachu. It's got Volkner, Ball Guy, Level Ball in the hand. Pretty decent hand from our lightning player. From what I do remember this game, this wound up being a very close one. I definitely do not play this fire deck as well as I could have. Honestly, don't get a ton of opportunities to play, so I do tend to make a lot of mistakes sometimes when I'm playing a lot of these decks, especially since I'm not super familiar with a lot of the builds that I've got. Looks like is getting that new Rotom. This is a Rotom that first attack allows you to, for 1 energy, look at your opponent's hand, and then you discard all items and tools. Like it's honestly kind of a wild attack. Like I cannot believe that exists. Putting down Volkner, gonna get an item card as well as an electric energy. Looks like player is debating that switch, is wanting to go ahead and get that Rotom into play. They saw that I did not do very much that last turn. Wants to go ahead and see what I have in hand and potentially get rid of some of the resources that I might wind up using in the upcoming turns. First off, though, they go ahead and use Quick Ball. Going to be able to find another Pokemon and put down on the bench. Getting rid of that Ball Guy. I already had a lot of the balls in their hand that they wanted, so don't really need that guy anymore. Do think there's something a little bit funny about discarding Ball Guy with one of the Pokeballs. Think here something like a Tapu Koko or one of the Dynamotor Pokemon basics would probably be good choices here. Again, I don't quite remember exactly all the plays of this game. Do ultimately remember the outcome, though I won't spoil that for anybody. Going for that Electabuzz instead. So gonna set up the Electivire very soon. Probably gonna. I do remember that he does start picking me apart with this Rotom pretty soon. Starts getting rid of a lot of my items, a lot of my tool cards. Before finally starting hitting me with that Electivire. Talk a little bit about this fire deck, since I do know my list at least a little bit. It is a kind of a rainbow build of fire. You can see Luminous Energy, or I don't think that's Luminous Energy. I can't remember the name of that energy, but it's one of the rainbow energies that's in my hand. That's because I'm running stuff like the Reshiram, the amazing rare one that can hit for 270, as well as a Heatran that does additional damage if it has water energy attached. So kind of uses a lot of different energy types with things like this Victini to power up your Pokemon and get them going. Honestly, that Victini was exactly what I wanted to start with. It just so happened that I didn't have anything else going on my hand. So gonna lose this Professor's Letter as well as the Tag Call from that Rotom's Crunching Pulse attack. Or is that Crushing Pulse? Crunching Pulse? Whatever it's called, either way. Let him see my hand a little bit, and then I got rid of some of my cards. So I do have the Professor's Research in the Marnie, and I was debating using one over the other. I didn't want to lose those energies. Knew I might need both of those later on, so go ahead and use the Marnie. Not seeing quite as many cards as I would with the Professor's Research, but again, it does allow me to preserve those energies that were in my hand. I'll get 5 while my opponent will get 4. Do find that Castform, good pivot Pokemon, which can also be an attacker in a pinch as well. Lets you do 150 damage, but you do have to discard a stadium, and then if there's no stadium in play, then the attack does nothing. Again, mostly there as a pivot Pokemon since it does have free retreat. I did go ahead and put an energy down on this cast form. I still did not have a great looking hand, so not sure what else I was going to do. Did just figure go ahead and power up this Victini, or sorry, power up the cast form using my Victini, and at least maybe start knocking out this Rotom, because I did not want to keep losing my items every single turn. So go ahead and attach a Dark Energy and a Fire Energy. Believe in my hand at this point I still did have a Stadium, so I knew I could attack next turn as long as I did not lose my hand to something like an Iono, which, seeing my opponent's hand now, they did not have. Do have that Flaffy as well as a Magnemite. I actually don't think he ever wound up evolving that, so I didn't get to see which line of that he was actually running. Could have been using the newer one that lets you blow it up and get energies from the discard. Or, I mean, honestly, really, there's lots of different Magnetones. There's some that let you play extra supporters. It's always interesting to see which lines people go with when they do play that card. Trainer's Mail going down. Going to see the top 4 and get to pick a trainer. Lots of great choices here. Potentially grab that Silent Lab, Marnie, or the Guzma. Marnie would be a good way to disrupt my hand, though again, my opponent did see most of... well, I guess not anymore, because I did Marnie my own hand away. But I don't have too many cards, so Marnie might not be the best choice, but he also does not have the best hand and is going to play a lot of those cards down, so Marnie's probably a good choice just to refresh his own hand, even if he's not using it as disruption against me. Ultimately, that is the choice. I'm going to shuffle those other cards back into the deck. Lightning Spread is probably one of my favorite deck archetypes in GLC. Something about it I just really, really enjoy. A lot of the Pokemon are just... I know as a kid I really, really liked electric Pokemon. Raichu was one of my favorites. I always thought Electabuzz was really cool. Magnemite as well. Putting down that counter energy and then using the Marnie. So my opponent is just going to attack with this Rotom again this turn. Just kind of taking things slow and steady. He's saying that I'm not going very quickly, so not feeling super pressured to go fast either. Gets some good cards there. Not the best Marnie hand. Definitely did not want that Battle VIP pass at this point. Is well past the point where you want that card, but does have the Pokegear 3.0. Gonna look at 7 more cards, and take a supporter from there, which only is that Lusamine. Not the most ideal choice at the moment. There are a few supporters in the discard that could definitely be helpful. You know, may want to grab that Marnie or that Volkner back, though more than likely we'll play the Iono. Again, like I said before, even though I did play this game, it's been a couple weeks, so I don't remember exactly all the different plays from all the turns. So goes ahead and uses that attack again. I lose 2 more items, the Pal Pad and the Trainer's Mail. Opponent also sees that I've got 2 more Pokemon, so those get benched down. And now I am down on no hand. I do remember at this point I was not feeling very good. Since I lost my Stadium, I could no longer attack with that cast form. So I go ahead and just use Victory Sign again and start trying to power up this Entei. Unfortunately, this Victini does have to grab 2 different basic energies. So I can't grab 2 fire energies and attack it to this Entei, which is very unfortunate. Definitely one of the weaknesses of the deck. I don't think this is the most ideal fire deck, but it is really fun to play. When it does work, you know, it can hit really hard, really fast, and that's how I like to enjoy decks sometimes. So putting down this speed energy, going to be able to draw 2 cards. Probably one of my favorite special energies. I was definitely sad when that rotated out of standard. Don't remember what we were talking about there. I think maybe just a little bit of answer. Putting down the Dynamo. That is not the free retreat version. Just does have a little bit more HP than the free retreat version. I still kind of favor the free retreat. It gives you an extra pivot Pokemon when you need it, which can be very helpful at various points. Going ahead and disrupting my hand once more with that Iono. Both of us going to be able to shuffle, draw 6 new cards. I definitely do not mind that, since all I have is that Luxurious Cape. I will shuffle that up. and put that down. Definitely not the most ideal player. Our play from our electric player, giving me 6 new cards after I only had 1 left. I was definitely happy to see that. So kind of another interesting hand for our electric player. They do find another energy. They got their Electrike as well, so they can evolve Dynamo next turn. Gladiator to maybe get one of the prizes. Unfortunately, that Green's Exploration is not helpful because you got that fluffy Pillow Mareep. But I do lose a couple more cards. Unfortunately, that Floatstone and that Nest Ball. Definitely one of the nice things about using something like that Iono, even though he did give me a lot more cards, goes ahead and gets rid of a couple of them. Thankfully, I do have the Magma Basin, so I've got a Stadium. I've got a way to be able to attack this turn. Go ahead and use Avery as well. Makes him get rid of 2 of his bench Pokemon, and I get to draw 3. That Iono definitely helped a lot in this situation, so I could get back in the game a little bit. Gets rid of that Mareep and that Magnemite. Great choice knowing that he's got that Green's Exploration in hand. Going to be able to use that next turn to find 2 trainers. Go ahead and use the Magma Basin and then retreat and then use the Magma Basin. So I now have my Entei powered up. Also going to be able to attack with this cast form this turn, finally take out this Rotom, so I stop losing my items and my tools every turn. It's definitely a turnaround that I was not expecting with how this game had started off. I was feeling very threatened at this point in the game. Definitely was not going very well for me, but Iono really made things look up for me a lot. So goes up with the Electabuzz. Our player, knowing again that they've got that Green's Exploration in hand, they're going to be able to go get 2 trainers. So going to be able to get that Electivire this turn. Believe probably going to find that Evo Soda, if I remember correctly, potentially that Ultra Ball. Either way, he's going to have multiple options here to be able to go get the evolution Pokemon that he needs. Also eyeing up that Electro Power, which could be a way to also KO my Pokemon this turn in the active by letting it do extra damage to the active Pokemon. So it is just checking for all the different options. Does have that Evo Incense and going for that Electro Power. Oh, nope. So potentially looking for some other options instead. Or maybe just looking for that Electivire, making sure it's actually in the deck. There it is. So goes ahead and grabs those 2 cards. Uses the Evo Incense. Gonna grab that Electivire. And now that's evolved, it's fully powered up. The counter energy is in play because I did take a prize last turn. So I'm going to be able to use High Voltage Current. That does 50 damage to all of your opponent's Pokemon. Then Electro Power will make it do additional 30 damage to the active. So my cast form will be knocked out, and my Victini will be very close to being KO'd. Chinpao and Entei will also not be looking great either. So my opponent will take 1 prize this turn and start spreading around a lot of different damage. There, he was just asking how much damage I'm doing next turn. He is a little bit worried about my Entei being able to KO it. Unfortunately for me at this point, it is not quite a KO. I do need 1 more fire energy to be able to get a KO the next turn. Does evolve into the Electrike. Puts down Tapu Koko. Great pivot Pokemon as well as a way to spread some additional damage down. Can equip something like a double colorless energy and then use Flying Flip. It will put 20 damage on all of your opponent's Pokemon. Dynamotor, also a great way to charge up your Pokemon. Going to be able to use that. Get 1 electric energy on that Tapu Koko. Then I believe we are attaching for turn as well. Before the attack is most likely going to go off. Actually, it has not just played that Electro Power just yet. Might still use the Nest Ball as well. So does... Well, still debating that a little bit. And there we go. Nest Ball goes down. So going to play that this turn. Get 1 more Pokemon out of the deck. We do know the Regieleki is still in the deck. don't remember when he was sorting through what else is in there. I think it might just be the Regieleki. You know, the Magnemite as well as the Mareep are in the discard. So is that Rotom. So we'll see if our opponent does grab anything this turn. Ultimately does grab that Regieleki. Another great spread Pokemon. Does 120 damage to the active as well as 40 to, is it 1 or 2 targets? I believe it's 2 different targets. You do have to discard all lightning energy attached to it. So it does have a pretty big downside, but very powerful attack. Lets you mostly knock out the active and usually pick off 2 things that you've been setting up on the bench with things like this Electivire or Tapu Koko. So is putting on the Luxurious Cape, is worried about me finding 1 more Fire Energy next turn and then KOing. Then down goes that Electro Power. So again, this is going to make sure that Cast Form gets knocked out this turn, while still putting 50 damage on all of my bench Pokemon as well. Pressure from Entei only works in the active, so it is not reducing the damage that I will take from this Electivire. I think, again, that might have been the question that he was asking here, which is why we're just debating what is going to happen next. All right, so there we go. Go ahead and High Voltage Current. Did miss that Electro Power, so my Cast Form is knocked out. 70 damage total on Entei, 50 on the Chi-Yu, and 50 on Victini. I believe I do go up with the Entei here. I don't have a Fire Energy in hand at the moment, but I believe I do have the cards in hand to potentially grab it if I need it. I think this actually might have been one of the turns where I make a pretty bad misplay. I get a little lost on what I need to try to do this turn because I was really just struggling in this game. So I go ahead and use Acrobike. Again, digging. I know I was at least digging for Fire Energy this turn. I think I saw a Water Energy as well as another Bicycle. Just double checking my hand, seeing if there was any way I was going to be able to draw more cards with that other Bicycle. Fortunately, I have too many supporters in hand, so no way that's going to be able to happen this turn. So I believe I ultimately take the other card. No, I guess I did decide to go with the Bicycle instead. Don't remember why I thought that was a good idea at the time. Might have been one of the mistakes I was kind of making. So I do Guzma and Hala, discarding Arven as well as my Magcargo. Remember this being a very difficult choice. Definitely didn't want to get rid of that Magcargo, but it was not looking great for me at the moment. I needed to start finding some other options. So I do look at that Fighting Fury Belt, seeing if the math makes sense there. Will that actually help me against this Electivire? I am taking less damage now that I am in the active from this Electivire, so it's 50 damage is reduced down to only, oh gosh, does pressure reduce damage by 20 or by 30? I believe it's by 20, so I would only be taking 30 damage from the Electivire. So I'd be getting 40 more HP from that Fighting Fury Belt. Also debating that Viridian Forest. I think that's ultimately what I go and grab. I do remember at this point in time, what I was thinking in my head was, I need to find another energy. I actually was too focused on what I needed to do next and missed this Luxurious Cape, which is very obviously in play. It's not hidden at all. So I was thinking all I need is just 1 more energy, and then I can take the KO this next turn. But again, I did miss that play. I could have probably gone for it with the Arven. But unfortunately, I didn't have the Fire Energy, so I wouldn't have been able to take the KO one way or another. So I kept just kind of getting lost and like, I need the Viridian Forest to get an energy. But I just grabbed energy off the Guzma. So I go ahead and play the Viridian Forest. And then I equip the Luxurious Cape as well as that energy, or I guess maybe I don't. I don't quite remember if I do ultimately play that. I think I'm just going over the math in my head a little bit. So go ahead and attach that Prismatic Energy, I believe is what that one was called. So it does count as another Fire Energy. I would be doing 140 damage, which would be enough to KO if that Luxurious Cape was not in play. Yeah, I think what I remember in this turn. So I see the Melon in my hand. What I was thinking was, okay, can I discard enough cards from my hand to be able to actually draw a decent amount from this Mela? Because since that would let me get a Fire Energy in play. I think ultimately I wasn't very confident on how many more energies I had left in the deck. So I wasn't thinking that I could actually get there. So that's why I went that way. Then I was like, wait, why did I play this Viridian Forest? I didn't even use it. Again, I still got kind of got stuck in my head that I needed another energy, even though I found that energy off the Guzma and Hala. So I ultimately give my opponent an energy that he was really wanting this turn. Does wind up putting me in an even worse spot than I was already in. So is discarding that Gladian for Viridian Forest, gets to find an electric energy. I think I actually remember saying there, it's like, why did I play that? He's like, I don't know, but I definitely needed this energy. I believe that is going to go down on the Regieleki as well. Yeah, I think that's me saying it. It's like, I don't know what I was doing there. I kind of just got confused. Missed the Luxurious Cape. Again, that comes down from the fact that I don't play all that often, so sometimes I get a little bit lost in what I'm doing. Don't always plan through my turns all that well. Tagging another energy, which again they needed since the counter energy had been turned off. If I had not done that, they would not have been able to attack this turn with it, at least not with the cards that they had in hand. So, very big mistake. I do remember I was already feeling behind in this situation, and then I was just feeling even more behind. So plops down that Silent Lab, turns off all the abilities, though it's not really needed at the moment since, again, that pressure is not protecting me. So I did think I lost my Entei, but he is correct. I only had 70 damage, so that's plus 50, so I do have 10 left on Entei. Remember, I was feeling kind of defeated at this moment. I'm like, oh no, this game is already over. At this point in our season, the player that I'm playing against actually was in second place overall. While the way that I do the Professor Challenges, you do have to be behind a certain number of badges from our leader. But our first place winner for season 2 actually got all 10 badges. So he won with every single type. He just kind of completely dominated everybody every time he came out. So just by the rules of the way that the challenges worked, second place player was far enough behind that he could still challenge me. He was trying to be sure in this one, if he had won this game, or if he wins this game, he would actually have secured second place. There would have been no way for third place to catch back up, since there was only one more tournament left for the season at this point. But getting back to what's going on in our game a little bit, I go ahead and use Versus Seeker. So gonna grab Arbin, going for the play that I maybe should have gone for previously. So gonna go for that Field Blower, as well as, I think I just grab, the Fighting Fury Belt here. Give myself a little bit more HP on this Entei. But Field Blower will allow me to take a KO this turn. Electivire, again, has 140 damage on it, so once I get rid of the Luxurious Cape, then his Pokemon will be knocked out, and I'll be able to take a KO from that. Gets rid of the Silent Lab as well, so pressure is back in play. Going to reduce the damage when my Pokemon is in the active. So go ahead and take a prize there. I think I probably, after he promotes something, just go ahead and attach and retreat and do an attack. Looking at the rest of the hand, not too much else that I have going on. So my opponent is debating, what does he want to sacrifice this turn? Is thinking about that Regieleki. Ultimately chooses Pikachu. So since I do have the energy in hand, again, I'm going to be able to take another KO this turn. Just going to be able to attach onto the Chi-Yu and then retreat into Entei. Do go ahead and attach that Luxurious Cape as well, because I am worried about getting KO'd. Put the Fighting Fury Belt on the Chi-Yu. Trying to put it out of range of that Tapu Koko at the very least. I don't want that just coming up next turn and KOing me. Go ahead and use Heavy Ball. I don't think there's any more targets left in the deck. Heatran, I think has, well, I guess I could get the Reshiram or the Heatran here. I don't remember which one I ultimately go for. A lot of my energies were already in the discard, so it was going to be hard for me to ever power up either one. I think that's ultimately why I opted for the, sorry, it's not a Heatran, it's a Volcanion. Totally forgot which Pokemon was in the deck. So yeah, it's a Volcanion that does more damage when you have water attached to it. That definitely makes a lot more sense than Heatran, which usually has more like metal and fire stuff going on with it than water like Volcanion does. But I do grab that. Like I said, the Reshiram wouldn't have been a good choice for multiple different reasons. Not only would I have taken damage when it KO'd because it's got recoil, but it just has crazy energy requirements. So Pikachu goes down. I got 2 prizes that turn. It is now 4 prizes for electric versus 3 for fire. Thankfully for me, with this luxurious cape, I am out of range of this Tapu Koko for KOing me, as well as the Chi-Yu. Do have 12. Well, I guess actually, if he had managed to power up the Regieleki, he would have been able to take 2 prizes this turn, which he does have teammates. So goes ahead and attaches 1 energy with Dynamotor, and then going to be able to find 2 cards from his deck. Remember, after that last turn, I was like, oh man, maybe I do have a slim chance of coming back to this game. I definitely was not feeling super confident still at this point. But ultimately, it kind of came down to that Iono looking back at this game now. If he had not Iona'd me that turn, then I would have just been down on 1 card. Probably would have been ultimately the better choice rather than trying to find more cards from his deck. At that point, I could have just been top decking over and over again. He could have been slowly setting up. It's like, yes, he didn't really have much else going on in his hand either. But generally, whenever your opponent has low hand size and they seem like they're doing worse than you, probably better not to risk it and potentially assist them by giving them new cards. So our player ultimately finds his 2 cards from his deck, goes ahead and uses his own Field Blower, so going to be able to take a KO on both Chi-Yu. Well, actually, not the Entei this turn because Pressure is saving it, but does have Counter Catcher. Cannot use that, or actually, sorry, can use that because I did take 2 prizes last turn. Volcanion goes up, so going to get 2 more prizes. See me kind of thumbing cards a little bit. I was like, uh-oh. So there go those 2 poor little Pokemon. 2 damage on my poor Volcanion as well. Again, don't remember exactly what I was saying there. Do you remember I was just kind of joking around with my opponent? I don't tend to take these all that seriously. Do want my opponents to win more often than they lose. Try not to make it easy for them, and I definitely never just give up games. Always fight it out to the bitter end. But that's what I was saying. I was like, you know what? This is my one chance. You're just gonna not notice that I'm gonna play 2 supporters. That's what I was saying there. So go ahead and use that Raihan. Get energy from the discard. And then find one for my deck. So I was pretty sure that I still had the counter energy. This was one of those situations where my lack of familiarity with my own deck was definitely hindering me. I was like, oh man, is my counter energy is like, I'm pretty sure there's one in the deck. I don't know why I wouldn't be running one, but I'm not sure if it's in the prizes. I'm not sure if it's the deck. I did not do any prize checking, but it was there. I was like, oh wait, if I can do this turn, and then I can take the KO. He doesn't have a pivot Pokemon. If the Electric goes up to be able to Dynamotor to the Regieleki, well, how does he get that out of the active? Wasn't sure if I wanted to bench this Reshiram, but I felt like I needed an additional Pokemon just in case. So I go ahead and bench that, and then I take the KO. It does 160 damage because I had a Water Energy attached, since he did take 2 prizes last turn and got himself back ahead. So we're back down on 2 versus 2. Ultimately does go up with that Electrike, wants to get another energy on his Regieleki and then potentially pivot back into it this turn. If he can't do that, that would KO my Volcanion and put some damage on that Regieleki, put me again in a very bad position. It's been very precarious for me all game long. But somehow each turn I've barely managed to figure out something to do. Thankfully, I was assisted a little bit by my opponent a couple different times, or at least that one time with that Iono. To be fair, though, I did assist him by giving him the energy he needed to take out my Pokemon with his Electivire. So both of us potentially making a few mistakes here, though mine was much more clearly a mistake. His is a little bit more arguable. You know, again, I feel like generally it's better to not Iona when your opponent just has one card in hand, is already struggling. Does use that Night Stretcher, gets one more energy on that Regieleki, so if he did have a way to pivot, then he'd be able to retreat this turn. Fortunately, he does not. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that Timer Ball. I think that rolled into the thing. He was asking if he could use that one. I'm like, no, you gotta re-roll that. So we got one and just one. So there we go. I'm gonna be able to find one evolution Pokemon. Really nothing he wants to grab right now, but is a good way to at least thin the deck out a little bit. That's one less card that you're potentially finding later that you don't need. Kind of one of those small little strategy things that can be good to remember. You know, I think that's, the saying is deck thinning is deck winning. And it is definitely a good thing to keep in mind whenever you're playing games. Sometimes it's just good to get a couple cards out of the deck. You know, a lot of times it is very helpful to keep resources in, but other times you just need to know when you need to get rid of those resources. Make sure that you do not draw them. So gets teammates in boss's order back with that Lusamine. Knows that I am likely taking the KO next turn, or definitely taking the KO on this Electric next turn. Ideally for me, I would have a boss's orders this turn, but I don't believe that I do. So I think I'm just going to have to take out this Electric on this next turn. And I'm sitting here looking, how the heck do I potentially take two more prizes? I do have the Aurora Energy, but I then realized, wait a second, my counter energy is turned off. I'm going to need that here to actually be able to attack this turn. So I almost made a very critical error there. First, go ahead and use Level Ball before attaching any of those energies. Ultimately decide not to grab any. Probably should have grabbed the... actually, I remember why I didn't grab the Slugma. We were just talking about deck thing is deck winning, but I have Mela in hand. And I believe my plan here is to use the Mela, so I first want to discard cards out of my hand, basically. So I can draw more cards with Mela. Slugma would, I guess it wouldn't be stuck in my hand. I could have always benched it. But for whatever reason, I guess I thought it was better to just keep that. So instead, no, I use Bianca. So saving that Mela for later on. Do attach that Aurora energy as well. So for anybody that doesn't know, Bianca lets you draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to go ahead and thin down my hand a little bit. Looking at some other cards in hand. So getting my Chi-Yu back. Well, forget I need to actually play the card first before I do that. So Rescue Stretcher, up comes Chi-Yu. Looking at my hand, I know at this point I've got the Fire Energy, I've got the Mela. So if I can take the KO this turn on the Electric, as long as I don't lose my hand next turn, then... I can take the KO. I know my opponent has already used his Marnie, already used his Iono, did not grab it back with the Lusamine. So as long as he doesn't have like an in, then I was like, I think I'm good. I think I can maybe actually win this game. Somehow I think I turned this around. So he comes up with the Regieleki. Volcanion is in danger of being taken out this turn. My opponent is just looking at all the resources that are in his discard. He knows this is a very critical moment. Like I was saying before, if he could win this game, it would secure him second place in the season. So he knows a lot is on the line. He gets an ETB of Surging Sparks if he can manage to get second place in our overall standings, and that is just a week away at this at the time that this game was originally recorded. All right, so opponent draws for turn. After he looked at all his resources, goes back and looks just a little bit more. Again, he's just trying to think through all the different plays. We know he's got that teammates in hand, so he's thinking about what does he need to grab so he can get things set back up and not get KO'd on this next turn. He does know he takes out my Volcanion with his Regieleki, but then he's going to be completely on energies on his Regieleki. So he's got to find a way to get another attacker going as well as get this thing out of the active. So again, finishes checking those resources. Debating what he wants to do still. Knows he wants to play that teammates this turn. So goes ahead and plays teammates. I don't remember what I was saying there. I know the hand movement. It looks a little frantic, little whatever. But I remember I was just joking around with him a little bit. Sometimes I can get a little excited, a little animated. But teammates goes down. I'm gonna look through the deck, find some additional cards. Looks like our player is debating going for that Rescue Stretcher and maybe the Raichu. So maybe thinking of getting that Pikachu down and then trying to set that up somehow again next turn. But he doesn't have a lot of energies left in deck. I think I just see just 2 as he's flipping through. So he'd need to find some way to not only get that down, but then power it up somehow. Needs something like that escape rope. So get this Regieleki out of the active. Seeing it from this side now and seeing what's left in his deck, I see why he's taking a little bit of time now on this turn. I think actually what I might have been joking about there was, if this was anything other than a Professor Challenge, might be a bit of a pace of play issue. But we do have unlimited time in these typically, so I don't really mind sometimes when our opponents take a lot of time. There's a lot riding on this. Again, he is competing here to try to secure that second place spot, so I wanted to give him as much time as he possibly needed. I wanted him to try to find some way to win if he could. And I knew looking at my hand, as long as he didn't disrupt me, as soon as he played that teammates, I was like, I think I just have game. I don't know what he could possibly do here. He can't possibly spread around enough damage. If he takes the KO on the Volcanion, then I just easily KO with Chiyu next turn because I've got Mela and Attach Return. But again, I wanted him to maybe find something that I wasn't seeing. Maybe there was something possibly in his deck that I wasn't aware of that he could have gone with. And chooses one more. So I think that was 2 electric energies. Grabbing both of those out of the deck. I guess that means at this point he's just committing to the Regieleki. Guess he's hoping that I don't have a way to be able to power up an attacker next turn. He knows I'm hurting for resources as well. Both of our decks are running out of resources. But I've been holding on to this Mela basically all game long, waiting for a moment. So uses that Heavy Ball. Don't believe there's any more Pokemon in there, but you know what? Might as well play all your cards. It's one of the last games of the season, so might as well make it a good one. But I do believe we are coming up to the end here. I think at this point, goes ahead and uses an attack. Does take out the Volcanion. Loses all 3 of those energies. 40 damage on both of my bench Pokemon, and my active goes down. So he takes the prize, show the Mela, Attach Return, and attack. Mega Fire of Envy does enough damage with the Regieleki, and that is game. So there we go. GG. Fortunately, opponent did not get to the victory in this game. He did ultimately go on and get second place anyway, but very well played from our electric player. Thankfully, my mistakes didn't come back to bite me, and I was able to come back and win that game.